The topic of ground reaction forces is a popular one currently in the golf instruction industry, and yet a lot of golfers don't really know what ground reaction forces are, or more importantly, how they can use them to benefit their swing. Generally speaking, ground reaction forces are spoken about in terms of increasing clubhead speed, which with it would come increased potential distance. So today, this video is going to touch on some basic concepts to do with ground reaction forces and how using HackMotion, we can actually see how increased speed gets transferred out into our wrists. So before I start this video, I just want to clarify that ground reaction forces are present in every single golf swing. It's not a newfound thing that suddenly someone's discovered and you can apply that to certain swings. This exists in every single golf swing that's ever existed. What we're able to do now is pay more attention to what's happening at the ground level and try to use some of that information to help golfers improve their strike. Primarily, as mentioned, ground reaction forces are mostly discussed in terms of increasing speed, clubhead speed, which ultimately should help you hit the ball further. Let me step in here and just discuss really what the ground reaction forces are and how they're measured. They really come in three planes of motion. There's a rotational force that you can apply to the ground. So that would be moving in this plane of motion, in and out, effectively. There's also a lateral horizontal plane of motion. So you can move your feet and push into the ground in a lateral sense. And then there's also a vertical sense, a up and down movement, pushing or more of a jumping. And it's that one really that's associated mostly with golfers trying to increase the ground reaction forces and with it increasing their speed. Peaking or spiking that vertical force is something that a lot of people will talk about in terms of increasing speed, and specifically isolated on its own, increasing vertical ground reaction forces, the more you go into the ground and then the more you jump up, can certainly add more speed to your swing. However, everything needs to be considered in its context and how one thing influences another. The function of the swing is not simply to swing as fast as you can. There are other considerations that every golfer needs to make every time they swing, one of which would be the consistency and quality of contact. Contact quality and consistency matters tremendously. For example, if I could give you an extra 10 miles per hour of clubhead speed for free, but you start missing the center of the face, the likelihood is that additional speed wouldn't actually result in more distance. So you mustn't swing without any consideration at all for the centeredness and repetition of contact. And then the other consideration has to be the direction of the shot. Again, swinging as fast as you possibly can brings into play the widest possible dispersion of your shots, and you will know very well that when you play golf, you need to control the direction of your ball to some extent. So the swing has three functions: contact, distance and direction. When we speak about ground reaction forces, we can use those to control all three of those things, but primarily, as I mentioned, they're spoken about in terms of increasing distance. What you can do to help you increase distance is think about lifting or coming away from the ground in the backswing, almost feeling like your feet get lighter as you make the movement into your backswing. That would be adding more vertical extension in the way that a golfer could feel like they're getting a little bit taller in the backswing. That's one way to think about it. And that increase or that feeling of extension and getting lighter as you go back allows you to then put more weight back into the ground as you transition. You'll often see golfers as they transition, some expert players have quite a significant lowering or squatting towards the ground in that early transition. And it's from that reflexed squatted position that they can then push back up again away from the ground. And all of those motions happening extremely quickly, I hasten to add, are able to then help to throw out more energy out from the body to the arm to the club and ultimately into the ball. So if you get the timing of those things right, there's no doubt that can be effective. But at the same time, just trying to bounce around and jump off the ground with no consideration for any of the other pieces can often lead to more trouble than actually giving you the benefits that you were looking for in the first place. But if I was trying to increase my clubhead speed, here are some of the things I might think about. Let me start out by hitting a couple of normal ones. I'm wearing HackMotion here, and I'm actually going to use one of the metrics on the data to help me see how I'm moving the tempo of my swing throughout the swing here. I'm just going to jump over and move this up now so we can see Backswing and downswing timings, those are going to be interesting as we move through these shots. That was a warm-up 7-iron for me there. That's not particularly fast and that's not particularly far either. Let me just start working my way up through some of these. That wasn't a particularly good strike. It's gone fairly straight, but I hit it out the toe. I want to show you what a normal standard 7-iron would look like for me. That one was much better. Solid contact. 84 miles per hour, carry 167, total 176. I think on the golf course around 168, 169 is pretty standard carry distance for my 7-iron when I'm not trying to kill the ball. And for me, that's a stock swing that I would take to the course and feel comfortable making. Could I swing faster than that? Yes. What happens when I swing faster than that though is I begin to sense that I may lose control of contact and also start to lose some of that directional control and consistency as well. That's a stock standard shot there that I felt I could use on the golf course. Now, how would I increase the speed? Well, first of all, you could actually change your ground reaction forces indirectly by thinking about another part of the swing altogether. If you're trying to swing faster, if you're trying to create more speed, I would often tell a student to just start by having that intention. Try to swing faster. Very often people want to hit the ball further and I'll ask the question, well, are you trying to swing faster? Are you trying to hit it harder? And the answer would be no, not really. Well, let's start with that as an intention. Let's try to hit this ball harder. And what you'll find is that your ground reaction forces would be changing. The way that you're moving at the ground level, the way that you're pushing into the ground and using the ground would be different just because your intent has shifted to hit this ball harder. I swung a bit faster at that. Very slight increase in speed. Interestingly, not much difference in ball speed or distance there because the strike diminished, the quality of the strike diminished, and that's the game that you're playing here constantly. You're constantly balancing the three fundamentals: contact, distance, and direction. And as you add more speed, if you sacrifice too much of the others, then the outcome actually gets worse, not necessarily better. However, that would be a shot I'd be reasonably happy with. Not a bad distance, not a bad ball flight, but it felt a little out of control. Trying to swing faster to me changes the sequence of the entire swing. So as I try to swing faster, all of my pieces here are moving at a slightly different rate and it feels less repeatable or less predictable. It might be the reason why you don't want to swing faster when you're actually out on the course. The sense of the loss of control, the chaos really that feeling brings to your swing is so great that you decide to just go back to a space and a speed that you're more comfortable with, and that makes sense in my mind. That one was a little bit faster. I did try to swing a bit quicker. Now, what would happen if I really consciously tried to use the ground differently? I'm going to use that specific example I gave you earlier, where I'm going to try to feel like in my backswing, I get a few inches, in my mind at least, feel like I get a few inches taller and feel like I'm raising up from the ground, my pelvis is getting further from the ground, feel like my chest is getting further from the ground. I'm going to feel like I go up. Then as I get to the top, I'm immediately going to feel like I move down and forward. So from this front view, you'll see how my weight moves towards the target. My lead knee starts to flex and go towards the target. And the second that I've done that, the millisecond that I've done that, I'm actually going to then start to push very consciously back off of that leg. So I'm going to jump off the ground as a feel with the front leg. I'm going to push harder into the ground. Now as I try to do this quickly, I've got a very small window of time to time this to get it right. No sooner have I started to go down, I need to be pushing back up. Otherwise I'll have missed that window of impact. So this does take some trial and error. You do need to experiment and experience some good and bad with this in order to get to a point where you feel like you can not only swing faster using this technique, but actually make that technique usable and useful for you on the golf course. Quick question for you. Did you know that 80% of your golf ball's direction comes from the club face angle at impact? And it's your wrists that control that angle. If you want to hit straighter shots and add more distance to your game, then check out the link in the description below. So we've set the baseline there at sort of 84, 85. Here I'm going to try to get taller in the backswing, squat down and push up. See what we get. Up, down, and then up again. It definitely felt quicker. Ball speed's gone up tremendously. Look at the outcome there on the screen, how much control I lost of the club face as I swung faster. But I added thick end of 4 or 5 miles per hour in one swing. So there's the proof that it can help you swing faster, but there's also the evidence that it doesn't necessarily make me a better golfer. But with time, with practice, could I take that feel, learn to train it, learn to control it, and learn to benefit from that additional speed on the golf course? Yes, it's definitely possible. Let me do another one. So up, down, and back up again. The lead leg is really the catalyst for this, the pushing into the ground and then the pushing back out again. Here we go. There's another great example of why we don't always do that. Lost my sequencing, raising up, dipping down, completely topped the ball. I'm not going to let that be my last one. Let me see if I can get this one to work a little bit better than that last one. The entire feeling of that swing is a loss of control or a lack of control. Managed to hit the 90 miles per hour mark. Ball flight on that one's pretty good, and that's the fastest ball speed, longest carry, and longest total distance of all the shots I hit. So you can start to understand that exploring ground reaction forces, exploring how you move and how you use the ground, comes with both its pros and its cons, as discussed. The one thing I do want to show you though, which I think is quite counterintuitive in a lot of ways to people, is if I really wanted to swing faster, the one thing that I would try to do is to make my backswing faster. Now, using HackMotion, if you look at the app there, you look at the display that I've got up on the screen, it gives me a timing of my backswing. That last one was 0.87 seconds. And it gives me a timing of my downswing, and then from that, I get a ratio. I just want you to look at that backswing number. Oftentimes, golfers will say that they feel like they hit it further when they swing slower, smoother. I understand what they're saying, but in reality, if you want to move this club faster, the best trick that you can use is to start to make your backswing quicker. The reaction that you'll get from your body and ultimately from the ground will be different, and you'll increase your speed. So what I'm going to do here is try to make that 0.87 number smaller. So I'm going to make my backswing faster. And again, just having this intent of moving this club around me quicker will change the way that I'm using the ground. Here we go. That was definitely faster, 0.75. Club speed's up at that 90 level again. Very nice ball flight, high, straight ball flight, and very similar sort of distances. The ball speed dropped very slightly there because I didn't hit the middle of the club face. I hit it slightly off center. But the intention there of swinging faster in the backswing is one that a lot of golfers will stay away from, worrying that that faster backswing will create less control again. It will feel like they don't know what's going to happen to the ball. But that intention, that faster movement of the club backwards, keeping the backswing faster and quicker, can definitely increase the overall clubhead speed. I definitely lost control again. Sequencing becomes challenging. That one dropped just a touch down to 89. Shot didn't work out too poorly, but I think I can do better. That was 0.8. One last one. Fastest backswing I've got. Let's see what happens to the ball. Once again, a little bit of a display there of losing control, losing the strike by swinging in a way that feels somewhat out of control. That's ultimately what you're going to be balancing out here as you try to increase speed. You're balancing those three fundamentals: contact, speed, distance, and direction, and finding a happy place that you sit with all three of those that allows you to get out on the golf course and not only make good contact, but be able to find the ball that you just hit. So there's an example of some ground reaction force discussion, how you can also think about using your arm speed differently, particularly in the backswing, to help you hit longer shots. And you'd be able to transfer this same concept across to the driver, where it would work equally as well. So this is applicable to all clubs. Last one I'm going to hit for you. See how much speed I can get out of this 7-iron. It's interesting there, that last one at 90 miles per hour, how much of a drop in distance and ball speed there was because of the lack of strike. And honestly, if I was helping a golfer to improve their golfing ability, I wouldn't necessarily start with swinging faster. I would start with making more centered, more consistent contact on the club face. But for those of you wanting to find an extra few miles per hour, speed up that backswing, and then as you hit the ball, feel like you push up and off the ground fast. I think that was the fastest one of all, 125 ball speed, 91.5 miles per hour, and pretty much up there with the top numbers in terms of carry and total distance. So some ideas there around ground reaction forces. They exist in every single swing you make. How you feel you move and interact with the ground can certainly influence and change not only the speed of your swing, but also the club delivery and what that might do to contact as well as direction. And you can also think about increasing your speed by measuring the speed of that backswing every time you go out there. The faster your backswing is, the more likely your overall speed is also going to increase as well. I hope you found the video useful and some practical tips and ideas that you can take with you next time you go to the driving range. If you did enjoy this video, you'll probably enjoy some other HackMotion wrist-based videos that I've also made. You can click on the link in the description of this video that will take you to further HackMotion training videos.